A model upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatha Yahweh. Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Asherah. Nathalanawa. Hashabath. Bashalawam. Thawada. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the Sabbath and peace. Thank you, so be it. Quiet. Faha'ayim ma'ad ashirayim akad. Psalms 121. Anya harayim ayanyam ya oh haharayim ma'ayan yabawa'a Isaiah yabawa'a ma'yahawa sha'aisha shamayim wa'arataza la'a yanathan lamawat Regalia, Yala'a, Yanawam, Shashamarka, Hana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yayashun, Shashuma, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Shamaria, Yahweh, Tazalia, I'll Yad, Yum Ya, Yawamam, Hashemash, La'a, Hakaya, Wairak, La'a, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamaria, Mako, Ra, Yashama, Napasha, Yahweh, Ashak, Wa'aya, Ma'aitha, I Walam, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Kawada, Aman.
Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. You will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yasharel, hear, O Israel. Shema Yasharallah Yahweh Allah Haynawa Yahweh Akkad Shema Yasharallah Yahweh Allah Haynawa Yahweh Akkad Shema Yasharallah Yahweh Allah Haynawa Yahweh Akkad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Top line Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abi Yanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwithka, Thaba'ah, Ratazawanka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashemayim, Bethalanawa, Lakam, Yawum, Za, Wasalaknawa, Kabawathnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kabawathjanawa, Wala'a, Habiyanawa, O, Nasayawan, Abo, Hawashinawa, Mara, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Waha'ala, Wahatha Pa'araf, La'ayulam, Aman.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Ha'ashiramata's wife, 10 Commandments. La'ah, Yahaya, Laka, Alahayim, Akayim, Alpanya, La'ah, Ta'isha, Laka, Paso, Wala'ah, Ta'ibadam, La'ah, Talakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayika, Lashua, Zakar, Ath, Hayawum, Hashabath, Lakodashwa, Kabad, Abiyaka, Wa'amaka, La'ah, Daratazak, La'ah, Thana'ap, La'ah, Daganab, La'ah, Ta'aina, Shakur, La'ah, Thakamad, Kol, Asherah, La'ra'ayaka, Aman.
Exodus 20:3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image of any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy power in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gate. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Aman. Shabwa, be seated. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahashua, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Par Yahagabin, Thawada Amun, La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai with Israel. I might upon you all your Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakatha Yahweh, Hagadol, Rachuam, Abiyah, Wanara'ah, Aliyawan, Malak, Shol, Shamayim, Wa'aratazah, Wako, Dabayim, Kayayam, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawanawa, Ahabnawa, Hapalah, Yawaitazah, Yahweh Shah, Zakaranawa, Yahweh, Babataza 1, Aimka, Yasha Allah, Izarnawa, Banah, Wasap, Yasha Allah, O, Nanawa, Yum Yun, Aitha, Kayawamyam, Makwadam, Baba Kusha, Shalak, Mayaka Allah, Wahataza Wadat, Allahayim, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Washamar, Alnawa, Ba'aikwar, Shalak, Harocha, Sho, Yahweh Shai, Lanawa, Lalamanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Sabawana, Wada'aith, Sho, Debarka, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Wada, Some Yad, Wa'iwalam, Amun. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever, so be it. The Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the law. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hathawara. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us light to see. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Awar, Lara Awath. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Quran, Hayo, La Qurah, Ha'ain. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hashaman, Zayath, Lamashach, Yasha Allah. Shabbat, be seated. Good, turn it off. Yes, y'all want? Okay. Power.com. At the end of the day, after the Sabbath, I'll buy it. Power.com. All right. Shalom, Yashala. Shah Shabbat, or happy Sabbath in the Hebrew. And Bakur Tuwab, or good morning, also in the Hebrew. To all the brothers and sisters throughout the four corners that's either keeping the Sabbath day holy, watching us online, listening to us in the teleconference, and to the Akim here present in the school. Again, we send out all well wishes and on this Sabbath day here in Philadelphia, or from Philadelphia. So we are Hayashral Kanas, which is a congregation of Israel who teach and abide by the Most High's word found in the Holy Scriptures, the laws, statutes, and commandments pertaining to the dietary laws, ceremonial laws, as well as the moral and civil laws, as well as also you'll find in the Scriptures the historical, archaeological prophecies, as well as testimonies throughout the Bible that helps us to understand past, present, and future, and the purpose of what the Most High has in store for us here as we're dwelling in these last days. So this is what we go through continually, as it says in Joshua 1:8. We're supposed to meditate day and night on the Scriptures, right? It allows us and helps us frame a perfect mind that the Most High wants us to be in. I know sometimes when we veer off and we put things into our own, we trust in our own hearts, and we find out that, we venture forth into a lot of issues. So if we try to tap into the zone, tap into the chambers that's found in the Scriptures given to us by the Most High in Christ, that we will kind of draw closer and closer and closer to him as he has instituted in the Scriptures, that we gather ourselves together and we gather under Yahweh Shah, or the Savior in the Hebrew, before the great and coming day of the Most High. All right. So again, my name is Priest Kahan Samak, or Samak means support. And today we're going to be in the book of the Apocrypha. We're going to first read 2 Maccabees, the 15th chapter, which is the last chapter found in the Apocrypha. And then we're going to jump back to the beginning for the second half and read 1 Esdras, the first chapter found in the same book of the Apocrypha. All right. So we're at the end of the storyline, which is interesting because when you read 1st and 2nd Maccabees, 1st Maccabees kind of gives you the whole fullness of the story, starting with Alexander the Greek, going to Mattathias and his sons, all the way to their end. And then when you come to the 2nd Maccabees, it goes to a specific point or a snapshot in time during the Maccabees, during the time period of Judas Maccabees. All right. And it kind of goes a little bit more in depth as to some of the hidden storylines that you may not have gotten in 1st Maccabees. You get that in 2nd Maccabees. So that's where we are right now. We're at the last chapter, 15th chapter. That's where we're going to begin. It was a very descriptive storyline where the brother, hoist himself off the ledge so that he wouldn't fall victim to being captive by the heathen. And usually when you are captive, they torment you, they punish you, they embarrass you, they use you as a symbol of power, and they conquer. So he didn't want to fall victim to that when you read in the previous chapter. But now, as we're going to continue on with the battles going on here, we pick up back again with the man Nicanor, right? So this is 2 Maccabees chapter 15, verse 1. It says, "But Nicanor, hearing that Judas and his company were in the strong places about Samaria, resolved without any danger to set upon them on the Sabbath day," right? So he got a little intel of where Judas and the brethren of the camp was, right? They were located down in Samaria, and they were taking their refuge or their rest on the Sabbath day, right? The Sabbath day being a day of rest where we remove ourselves from all our labors, work for hire, so forth and so on. And we come together, worship and praise the Most High, as well as go out and do righteous acts, to do good on the Sabbath day, as Christ said it in the gospel, where we may go out and help or teach. That's what you see Christ did. He went out and healed on the Sabbath day, as well as taught on the Sabbath days, and sometimes even fed on the Sabbath days, right? And sometimes, he caught flack from it. But these are things that are doing good or well on the Sabbath day. So the men, Judas and the men, were, resolved or just held back to keep the Sabbath day holy. So Nicanor, finding out about this, probably thought this was going to be an opportunity. Verse 2, it says, nevertheless, the Jews that were compelled to go with him said, "Oh, destroy not so cruelly and barbarously, but give honor to that day, which he that seeth all things have honored with holiness above other days." Right? So we read this in Ecclesiasticus, the 33rd chapter. You can write this down to go with verse 2 here. The last precepts in verse 2. It says Ecclesiasticus chapter 33, verse 7. It says, "Why doth one day excel another, whenas all the light of every day in the year is of the sun?" It says, "By the knowledge of the Lord they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts. Some of them he have made high days and hallowed them, and some of them he made ordinary days." Right? So when we read this in the second verse and back in 2 Maccabees 15, that last precept says, "Which he that seeth all things hath honored with holiness above other days." The other 6 days of the week, right, are beneath the Sabbath day, right, as just a normal month. The Most High has elevated the Sabbath day to be a day of reverence and rest, right? So this is what he's saying to Nicanor, like, look, don't go down and destroy the Sabbath day. Don't go down and be so barbaric that you want to go and wage war on the Sabbath day. Recognize that the Most High, God of all, has reverenced and hallowed this day. That was Ecclesiasticus chapter 33, verses 7 to 9. So again, reading verse 2, it says, "Nevertheless, the Jews that were compelled to go with him." So of course, Nicanor in this war, he had some captives or some people who were either traders or captives that were with him, but they still understood what was going on. And they said, listen, let's not do this on this day. So this is what they're petitioning to Nicanor to kind of, let this day pass, right? As like when you read in Acts, I think it's the 12th chapter. Acts, the 12th chapter. And the 4th verse. I'm going to start from 3. Acts 12 and 3, where it says, "And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people." So now the pagan custom during the time of Easter was being kept, but they didn't want to do anything to Peter during that time. They wanted to wait till after that time to figure out what they was going to do with Peter. So now they're petitioning, "Hey, Nicanor, don't go and wage this war on the Sabbath day. Do it on another day. Wait until the first day of the week, which is Sunday, and then you can go and do that," right? Because the Most High, and that was Acts 12, 3 to 4. So now back in 2 Maccabees 15, it says, verse 3, "Then the most ungracious wretch demanded if there were a mighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath day to be kept," right? So now they're explaining to him about the Sabbath day. He's questioning, is there a God in heaven? Who is it that commanded this day to be kept, right? So now he's just totally disannulling the fact that there is a higher power, that there is a most high power, the power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. right? Every now and again, you're going to have someone or have had someone rise up when you read the scriptures who just didn't reverence or understand the power, the will of the Most High, and had to be made an example of, right? We started off with Pharaoh, right? You read in the same in the Apocrypha with Antiochus and the rest of these heathen leaders or generals or rulers or emperors, right? They all had their time and place in history where they questioned the validity of the existence of a Most High and how they're equal or above anything that we have. You also read this in the Old Testament, right? So here is Nicanor falling in line with the same storyline of who is this mighty one and who is he to command a day? If it's anything, I'm that guy, right? Everyone wants to be revered or looked up as a god, right? So that their name can continue on, ruled by fear, right? So again, it says, then the most ungracious wretch demanded if there were a mighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath day to be kept. Verse 4, and when they said, there is in heaven a living Lord and mighty who commanded the seventh day to be kept, then said the other, which is Nicanor, and I also am mighty upon the earth, and I command to take arms and to do the living and to do the king's business. Yet he obtained not to have his wicked will done, right? So here it is, you know, as they're saying that there is a living power. Well, he's now stating his claim that he is also a mighty one, and he commands people to do such and such, right? So he's pairing himself with the living power at this moment. Verse 6, so Nicanor, in exceeding pride and haughtiness, determined to set up a public monument of his victory over Judas and them that were with him, right? So that was one of the things that especially the Edomite rulers, they always like to have a monument, right? You see it today. You go down in different parks, you see monuments and statues of different people who had done so-called great things throughout history, right? So here he is, before he even has accomplished it, he's already saying, yeah, I'm gonna have my monument set up right here when this battle is done and I win and I conquer and I destroy Judas and his men, right? Vainglory. They always wanted to have vanity established in the midst. You don't see that with Israel. Israel did not want to have statues erected of themselves, right? Or monuments of themselves. You have memorials of people who passed, but that was set up by the people, not over certain victories and certain people who they wanted to look up and revere as gods. Right? That's what you always had. So here he's already making a proclamation that this is what's going to be done. It says in verse 7, but Maccabees had ever sure confidence that the Lord would help him, right? So even though, you know, Nicanor, and there was time in and time out where the heathens had strength in numbers, strength in beasts, strength in weapons, resources, all of that. The brethren Judas never wavered, right? We read a few chapters back where the Most High sent the angel to come, or angels to come help fight with Judas, right? Angels to protect them, and then the angels to go out there and slaughter and destroy the enemy. So why would this now be anything different, right? Why would his proclamation of what he's claiming to do be anything different? So he had the confidence and the trust in the Most High that he would come and defend his righteous.
Yeah, sometimes like now, sometimes the Gentiles would show that military power, that they have that military parade, they parade all of the soldiers and their weaponry, to show the whole world what they have.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the heathen do it. You see Moab do it sometimes, where they have all their army with their high steps when they walking and marching in front of their president, high steps. You see the Russians do it. You see a lot of different nations do it as a show of force, right? You do it as a show of force. It's like, don't think we don't have people down here. We got some weapons. We got some strength, right? And they'll do like little war games where they'll go out and test, their new weapons that they just acquired, and then making a public show of it. He's like, you know, I got this new missile. Just want you to know I got this new missile. Or I recruited, I got about 10,000 more soldiers that just now came under the fold. Or we just went out and conquered these people, and now they're allies with us, right? So you always have this show of force done to put fear in the rest of the other enemies or anyone else, that you just don't want to just come in and not get any retribution or any revenge or any hell put back on you. So Judas didn't care, right? He didn't care about what they had or what they was going to do and what they said, because he know the Most High was always behind them, right? That's what you always want to have, is that trust in the Most High. You can't waver, you can't doubt, right? Because when you don't have that trust in the Most High, then the Lord will step back away from you, because that's what he always wants us to do, put our trust in him, right? It says again in verse 7, but Maccabees had ever sure confidence that the Lord would help him. Verse 8, wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven, and now to expect the victory and aid which should come unto them from the Almighty. So every now and again, you read throughout the Apocrypha, even during the times of Judith, you know, and the king, you had when the enemy would come up with show of force, the men sometimes would get a little afraid or fearful. And you had to have your savior, your champion, your leader step up and provide inspiration to the brethren, right? That's what a good leader does, right? When your leader, you know, you always look to your parents or someone else when something happens. You want to see what they do, right? You want to see how courageous they are. If they're courageous, then I'm courageous. So here's Judas. Let me remind you of what the Most High has done for us time and time again. You see this in the Old Testament. You see this in the Apocrypha. You also see it in the New Testament, right? Where the prophets or the apostles had to double back and remind ourselves of those things that had happened in the past with the Most High that he's still continually doing. How often did the Most High have to prove himself to us, where it should be us proving ourselves to the Most High, right? And that's how we are able to gain his trust. When we prove ourselves that we are worthy of his defense, we're worthy of his love, we're worthy of the repentance that we give, that he would acknowledge and accept it. When you are not worthy, when you are not putting your trust, you put your trust in man-made things or tangible things, or you kind of wishy-washy, you're lukewarm, then the Most High doesn't defend you. He doesn't protect you, right? He doesn't give you that gift or the spirit that you need in time of need. Y'all can.
Yeah, I just want to read this quickly.
Can.
Judges 7, verse 3.
Verse 8.
Yeah, what he's encouraging, you know, the men, you know, the people to be, you know, be strong, because the Most High is with us. So I just want to read an example of certain things that happen. Judges 7:3. Now therefore go to proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there return of the people 20 and 2,000, and they remain 10,000. That can get into the people and they become fearful. So when you read the story, the Most High, you know, cut down the numbers. First he said, who's fearful, you know, let him go home.
Done. That was also, you know, in the law, that you don't want to have anybody that's fearful in the camp. You know, you got to choose out righteous, man. I mean, you don't want to be side by side with somebody who's afraid and timid, and you ready to go out there to you know, get in the trenches, and they're like, I don't know, that guy ain't got your back. He looking for the nearest exit. Well, you ready to jump on, go over the next threshold, he's like turning back. He's withdrawing from you, and he's supposed to have your back. Right? You don't want to fight with anyone like that. But quiet.
I just want to read 2 Timothy 1 and 7.
Come. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7.
And it reads, "For power hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind." So somebody who's fearful, his mind is unstable. Like we're saying, he's looking for the next exit. He's already defeated, and he doesn't have the courage to go with faith in what he's gonna what the event that's before him.
Right.
You already defeated before he starts, so he might as well just go home.
Yeah, exactly. Even also in the law, you have it where men who just acquired a wife or just acquired a new habitation, a new place to live, they don't go out to war either. Why not? Why wouldn't the Most High have someone who just got married or someone who just bought a new house or just acquired? Why wouldn't the Most High have him go out to war?
Because their mind is pretty much in that, and they don't want to leave what they just acquired.
Exactly. It's new, right? It's a new thing, right? You just establishing a home with your wife and your family and things, and all of a sudden you being ripped from that, and you worrying about your new bride. You worrying about your new home, right? Who you haven't set up any kind of protection or anything, and now here you are in the trenches. You worrying about what's going on back home. Like you said, your mind ain't there. You watch certain even on certain movies. It's not even movies. It's just a reality where they have these young soldiers who go out to war, and they just have wives, just got married, right? They train them to make sure they get married when they're young, right? They don't want them to have them just single. They kind of push you to get yourself stable and solidify and get a family. But they don't do that portion of the law where the law says up to 1 year you don't go out, you stay home, right? And here these men 4 months in, they out of war, and they worrying about their wives who ain't got themselves right yet, and there's somebody else trying to creep in on their wives, or they get lonely and everything. Nah, you haven't fully establishing the home and the family, so you stay home, right? For those two things, or if you're fearful, you stay home.
It's like if I'm going out to teach and just got a wife, I don't want to go in there and teach for a year.
Yeah, and I haven't fortified or established my house. Right, I gotta establish there. I gotta get the house in order. Right, the house ain't in order yet, and here I am going out there to go and fight or go do something else, and now things is in disarray. It doesn't work that way.
And also, it's contagious. Once somebody is
oh yeah,
and you next to it, say, "What do you think about that, man? That is no good, man. Man, I was thinking about the same thing."
A little leaven. A little leaven.
Everybody, now you have somebody who is ready to go and start talking to those people, then he changes his mind too. So you got to get rid of those people with that mindset.
Yep. So that was Judges 7:3 and 2 Timothy 1:7, as I'm linking that with verse 8. So now back in 2 Maccabees chapter 15, we have verse 9 now. It says, "And so comforting them out of the law and the prophets, and withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he made them more cheerful." Right? So this is exactly the same thing that we just spoke about. Even later on in the chapter is going to remind them about past wars that the Most High himself fought. Right? The Most High himself sent angels to go and fight. Already happened with them back in previous chapters, where the Lord sent the angels to go fight with Judas. Right? So it's a reminder, because sometimes we're very quick to forget. Right? Jake is often quick to forget. That's why the Lord, when you read the Bible, is very repetitious. Right? The law is repetitious. The testimonies are repetitious, because we're quick to forget. Even in today's society, when certain things happen, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from removed, we forgot. Right? Satan has created an environment where you don't remember the things that are old, right? You just always right now moving forward. You don't forget, you don't remember what just happened to apply it to your life for right now so that you can have a better outcome. You're kind of trained and taught or overworked or just so much thrown at you, so you forget those things. And that's what usually happens with the spirit in Israel. So the Lord had to be very repetitious from generation to generation to generation to remind us of our history and our past, to remind us of what is required of us. So here about to go to war, Judas had to remind them of the past wars that they have fought. Even they themselves, and or going into the Old Testament or going to the past wars from the prophets and the scriptures to say, hey, this has always been an occurrence to us. You can't doubt. Look what the Most High did when we didn't. But look what happened to us when we did. Now, with that reassurance, it says they became more cheerful, right? Now it's like, yeah, you're right, Judas. You're right. Yes, right. He did send an angel with us. Yeah, remember what he did do for King such and such. And remember what he did do in the time of David. And oh, yeah, you're right. We got this, right? It says in verse 10, and when he had stirred up their minds, he gave them their charge, showing them therewithal the falsehood of the heathen and the breach of oaths, right? So as they're now back engaged to go fight, now it's to change their focus to the enemy, to show them that all that stuff that they're saying is falsehood, right? The falsehood of the heathen and the breach of oaths, right? Certain agreements and certain things that they had done with Israel in the past have been broken. Demetrius and the Rome, they had broken these agreements that they once said, oh, we're going to be good with you, right? We're going to take the tribute off of you, right? We're going to do all these things to let you guys live. And then within a few months, they backtracked on that. And now they back at war again with us. All we wanted to do was just live peaceable and just keep our laws. That's it. We ain't got nothing to do with all that other stuff. We just wanted to be peaceful and live in our land that the Most High promised to us. But now with all this other noise and insurrection of this people wanting to rule and this people coming against a lot of just in turmoil rulings and squabbling between Esau amongst themselves on them trying to gain power. So look, these guys ain't right. They breach oaths and they sell a lot of lies, right? We need to make sure we come together and stand and defend against them. Verse 11, thus he armed every one of them, not so much with defense of shield and spears, as with comfortable and good words. And beside that, he told them a dream worthy to be believed, as if it had been so indeed, which did not a little rejoice them, right? So when you link this up with 2 Maccabees 8 and 18, 2 Maccabees 8 and 18. This is verse 11. I'm in the 15th chapter of 2 Maccabees, and we at the 11th verse. And now I'm about to go to 2 Maccabees, the 8th chapter, and the 18th verse to link with the 11th verse.
The first chapter, you on the 15th chapter?
For the service?
Yeah.
Come.
Okay, well, I ain't been here before you started, so you can make that up, make me a copy of that. And I'll, be in the next chapter.
All right, you can start from where you at right now. It's about verses. So now, 2 Maccabees chapter 8, verse 18, it says, for they, said he, trust in their weapons and boldness, but our confidence is in the almighty power, who at a beck can cast down both them that come against us and also all the world, right? So the heathens usually put their trust in weapons, bombs, missiles, guns, lasers, right? chemicals, right? All of that stuff is what they put their trust in. Propaganda, right? To gain the upper hand. Whereas with us, it shouldn't be so, right? We can't go put our trust in weapons, right? We don't own as many weapons as they do, right? But we have the best weapon of all, the Most High in Yahushua, the Most High in Christ. That's why it says, with all the weapons that they have, he can cast them down with one beck, right? The Most High can just cause a hailstorm over their whole camp and they're done. Right? The elements he can cause against them. So we should not be fearful of what they can have as opposed to what the Most High can do. Remember, all these elements, all of these things are created because the Most High allowed it. Right? The Most High used them to create these things for that great and dreadful day, because it's all going to come to a culmination and be used in that third world's war at the return of Christ when he comes back. All these things is now going to come to a head. Thus saith the Most High when you read the scriptures. So, Kun.
It's Psalm 20 and 7.
Psalms, verse 20 and 7.
And it reads, some trust in chariots, and some in horses. But will we in the Lord out?
So Psalms 20 and 7, again, to echo the sentiment of what the world of the heathen puts their trust and reliance in. Kanan.
2 Kings 19, verse 35. And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses.
Right. So that verse in 2 Kings is what's going to be alluded to as we read further down. Judas is going to bring out that same instance to remind the brethren of the power and will of the Most High, right? Whereas they went out to war, before they even went to war, the Most High sent one angel down and wiped out their whole camp, right? Wiped out their whole camp, and they woke up to see that the enemy had already been destroyed, right? Imagine you preparing yourself and you like, we're going to pray to the Most High. We're going to pray to the Most High that he's going to come and help us. We outnumbered, but we still going to trust in the Most High. But you still have that spirit that you're going to still go out there and face the adversity. And then you get up in the morning to go fight. And then you look out and it's like, oh, snap. These cats is all dead, all destroyed. What's going on? The Most High came and sent down an angel, right? And these things are building blocks for us, because right now we don't have the ability to see the physical angels to know that these are the angels that the Most High has sent down to help, like it did in the past, where the angel, the Most High, you knew that it was an angel. Now, it's true to tell you in Hebrews, we entertain, or in the New Testament, we entertain angels unawares. We don't even know that they're angels sent from the Most High that's amongst us. Something like when you read in the book of Tobit, where the angel was on a journey with Tobias. He didn't know that Raphael, one of the main archangels, was with him, right? He disguised himself as just a regular mere man, appeared to eat with him every night or every morning, whereas he wasn't physically eating. It tells you that, right? But that happens. So you can be amongst people and someone's sitting there and you just think it's a regular old person, but it's an angel from the Most High to disguise himself, to appear to make an appearance either to help you, or you might be destroyed, as you see sometimes in the past, right? That's why when the angels would come, the people would be a little bit fearful, right? Oh, it's an angel. And they drop down. Or what's the purpose of your coming? Because they thought it could go either way, right? But they'd say, hey, don't fear. This is a good tiding. This is a good time that I'm here. This is a happy occasion. like with Mary when she got the visit from the angel, right? Or John the Revelator when he got the visit from the angel. Like these were things that were known that it can go either way. But in this case, the Most High would do great things for Israel to help and defend his people. So now let's go back to 2 Maccabees 15 and 11. It says, thus he armed every one of them, not so much with defense of shields and spears, with comfortable words, with comfortable and good words. And beside that, he told them a dream worthy to be believed, as if it had been so indeed, which did not a little rejoice them. So not only did he encourage them to want to go fight, not because of the weapons that they had, but because of the Most High himself. And then now he's about to allude to a dream that he had, so that those who are hearing it believe that it actually just happened in reality, right? But this was a dream or a vision given to them by the Most High, and they believed it not a little much, right? So when it says they didn't little rejoice, they mean they were greatly rejoicing after what they had heard that we're about to read. Verse 12, and this was his vision, that Onias, who had been high priest, a virtuous and a good man, reverent in conversation, gentle in condition, well spoken also, and exercised from a child in all points of virtue, holding up his hands, prayed for the whole body of the Jews. This done, in like manner, there appeared a man with gray hairs and exceeding glorious, who was of a wonderful and excellent majesty. Then Onias answered, saying, this is a lover of the brethren, who prayed much for the people and for the holy city, to wit, Jeremiah, the prophet of the power. Verse 15, whereupon Jeremiah, holding forth his right hand, gave to Judas a sword of gold, and giving it, spake thus, take this holy sword, a gift from Yahweh, with the which thou shalt wound the adversaries, right? So remember, in the beginning, it proceeded to say, hey, when they heard what his dream was, they took it to that it happened indeed, like the Most High actually sent Jeremiah back to Onias to give Judas this golden sword, right? And it's worthy to be believed because all of what Judas had already been doing, right? Judas had already been conquering the heathen, chasing them and beating the hind parts of them as they ran away, right? You would have to think that the Most High is with this man. And then when they went out and fought, that the angels came and fought with them, right? So now, as Judas is saying, this is the vision that was shown him in his dream. They didn't think it was just a dream. They're thinking like, yo, this probably actually happened. And they are now the might and the power and all of that is charged up in them. This guy got the golden sword from Jeremiah, where the Most High gave him this sword, right? Now, when you read, even because it was the way it even mentioned Onias in the dream, in the vision, because Onias had all these characteristics. People loved and looked at Onias as that guy. So when you read about all his characteristics, it's like, oh yeah, we know him. Jeremiah came to him and gave him the sword to give the. Oh, when you hear that, you're saying to yourself, listen, I don't have no fear about going out and fighting this war. Now that I know he got that sword from the Most High, pure gold sword, oh, that's it. I don't need to hear no more, right? Come on.
That's what I read. Joshua 5:13.
This goes with we're gonna say the 17th verse.
With an angel and a sword.
Okay.
Joshua 5:13. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, art thou for us or for our adversaries? verse 15. And he said, nay, but as the captain of the host of the Lord, am I now come? And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said unto him, what said my Lord unto his servant?
Right. So now once he realized that this was a captain of the host, meaning of the heavenly host that stands before the Most High, he immediately gave him his respect. Right. You see this at times, even just in regular military or certain settings, when a certain person enters a room, right? People bow down in reverence this person. They either go down on the knee, drop down to one knee, or they bow their head, or they acknowledge him, right? This is the angel standing before the Most High. So Joshua, you know, him being the captain of the host on earth at that time, reverenced the captain of the host in the heavenly realm, right? Bowed down and gave him his respect, right? And this wasn't, in this instance, it wasn't out of fear. It wasn't like, oh, I've done something wrong. No, this was out of just respect, to understand what his purpose is in a whole order of things. And now it was like, what should we do, right? What should I do moving forward, right? And then the messenger would then go and tell Joshua what was going to happen, right? So again, another storyline of what the Most High has done, so that when they hear this one, it's not like it's new. It's not like it's a far-fetched made up thing. This has actually happened to Israel in the past, right? I remember when the Most High sent the angel against Moses and them had to go and plead for Israel, and they had to go up and offer up that offering. And as the angel had the sword there, then it stopped right there, right? So we had these experiences with the Most High intervening and coming to the aid or to the punishment of Israel, right? And we were able to reference that. So this is a good point of reference. So anybody who just dialed in, can you probably put your phone on mute so we don't get any background?
And it's like all these things happen. It's not like we don't understand. And that's why the Most High always find key specific events to tell us to keep remembering about these things. Because the way we are as people, we live in the moment, not to remember anything, but to enjoy the experience at the time.
Right.
Because we don't just live just to remember things.
Right.
Because we just go and have the experience and then we just move along.
Right.
Right. So that's why the Most High always have to remind us of a specific event that happened and then bring it back so that we can, remember.
Right.
We more seek to understand than to remember things.
Right. Because what usually happens, and we've been a prime example or experience of just this case of forgetting, right? It was a curse put upon the Most High that we would forget who we are, we would forget our heritage. But now once you forget who you are, you forget your heritage, the narrative can be changed, right? Who you once were, now is not you no more. Because that's your mind is gone. That's like somebody who has amnesia, right? And you realize that you either done them wrong or you know what type of person they are, and you take advantage of it because they don't know, right? They don't remember. I remember, so I'm gonna change history a bit. I'm gonna change the whole thing. I'm gonna change it around. So now they're gonna act off of what I tell them their own history is. That's what happened to us. So now at a certain point where we've gone through hundreds of years of that, the Most High says, all right, it's enough. I'm gonna make them remember now. I'm gonna make them remember who they are. Forget that other stuff. A lot of people are gonna believe the change history, but I'm gonna give them their real history. Now, when you have your real history, that's what we out here trying to do, is to go and remind others of their real history. Now they got the choice. Do they believe the truth or do they believe the lies and propaganda? Because we've been so attached to it. How can we be these guys? How can we be the chosen? How can we be the figures that's in the Bible? How can the Most High love us? How can the Most High about to send Christ to come and save just us and not everybody, right? So these things is the same thing now we have here, where is always a constant reminding. I think in Jeremiah 8:8, Job 8:8, not Jeremiah, Job. Job. So Job 8:8, it says, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers." Verse 9, "For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon the earth are a shadow." Verse 10, "Shall not they teach thee and tell thee and utter words out of their heart?" Right? So when you go and research, you realize that things ain't what they all drummed up to be, right? What I thought I was, which is nothing. I'm just here today, going tomorrow, right? I don't really know my history. When we just ask a simple question, what's your nationality? Well, because you don't know nothing. You don't know your place in history, your real place in history. So now go and ask of the former age, which is going to come from our forefathers that's here in the scriptures. The prophets, the apostles, right? The scribes, the priests, the seers, right? They'll tell us the real history. And we come into these scriptures and we just don't get, God is love, right? Love your neighbor. Those are great principles. But the Most High has history contained in the scriptures, going all the way back to the Egyptian period, Babylonian period, Assyrian period, Persian period, Greek period, Roman period, Spanish period, right? We get all of that in the scripture. So now we can say, all right, I got world history here, ancient world history up to the modern world history, right? All right here in the scriptures. And then I can see where we fit in. Wow. Shall they not teach thee and utter words? The Most High now is going to teach you who you are, teach you your past history that you didn't know, so that now you can put more confidence and trust in him, right? That's what the constant reminder has always been.
People tend to think about, the Western world, but we all came from the East.
And one last thing on that is, to a certain degree, you kind of understand why the Most High created things the way it did, and everything that he created is good for the children of the Most High. Not to say that forgetting is a bad thing, because forgetting can also be a good thing. For example, people who went through a traumatic experience, they don't want to sit around and remember, the traumatic experience that they have. Otherwise it's gonna be a painful life that they gotta live. Certain things over time you get to forget them. But every now and then, when we need to put into the bank over the event that we went through, then the Most High will remind us. Remember this, that, and the third when we crossed, the Red Sea, when I did this for you, when I did that for you. This is a good example for us to remember, to go back and remember. But sometimes you go through certain pain, you don't want to sit there and keep remembering what happened. Otherwise, you'll live a miserable life. Sometimes you forget things for a good purpose.
Right. It tells you in the Apocrypha that when a person who does that will destroy themselves. You destroy your spirit. That's how people go into depression, right? And once you get into a depressed state, it's hard to come out of it, right? Not saying you can't come out of it. It's just hard to come out of it because it's like self-inflicting pain. You're constantly going through and putting these sins constantly on yourself. And the Most High says, no, it's not the case. You come and you repent, you acknowledge your offense, and then you move on, right? The Most High says himself that he'll forget your sins if you do supplication and you're honest and sincere to move on. But as far as for our history and what makes us who we are, the fabric of our being, the Most High wants us to know all of those things, right? Don't forget him. Don't forget his law. Don't forget what they did to you, right? The Lord don't want you to forget none of those things of what has happened and experienced, so that we get to a point right now and we know how to move forward. Nobody else forgets. We're the only ones being taught to forgive and forget, but nobody else forgets. right? Again, good propaganda that's been placed upon the people to keep them seduced into this mind state, to keep them oppressed mentally. All right, so let's go back to 2 Maccabees 15, and we have verse 17 now. So it says, thus being well comforted by the words of Judas, which were very good and able to stir them up to valor and encourage the hearts of the young men, they determined not to pitch camp, but courageously to set upon them and manfully to try the matter by conflict, because the city and the sanctuary and the temple were in danger. So after being encouraged with the words of the vision that Judas Maccabees gave them, they said, listen, I don't even want to look, we're gonna go fight right now. We ain't even gonna pitch camp. I'm so ready. I got my adrenaline is pumping. I'm shaking because I can't wait. Right? So they said, listen, we're gonna try this matter by conflict. Meaning we're not gonna go sit down, and you know how sometimes when you watch certain movies, they'll have the two leaders go and they'll talk it out. And nah, we're not doing that. We're not talking is over. All that stuff that Nicanor said he was going to do, he's going to put up a monument and he was going to destroy this and he's going to destroy that. All right, we're going to take the offense. We're going to take the initiative and bring it to their front door. They're going to attack first, right? It says, I'm going to read that last part again. It says, because the city and the sanctuary and the temple in danger took for their wives and their children, their brethren and kinsfolk, was in least account with them. But the greatest and principal fear was for the holy temple, right? So they went to go and engage in this war and this conflict, not just because they were fearful of what was going to happen to their families or their homes or whatsoever. Nah, that was least in account. The most important thing was that they thought that the holy temple was going to be destroyed, that the holy temple was going to be desecrated. All right. Again, after they had just go ahead and cleansed it. So now, I think you just mute it. Yeah. So yeah, now their focus is on defending the temple. We've said it before. We've always had this thing with Israel, because that was a place that was dedicated to the Most High, that we will do all our offerings and sacrifices and things to the Lord. So that if we did sin, we can go to the priest and they can do a sin sacrifice or a trespass sacrifice, so the Most High would not inflict harsh punishment upon us. But in this case, if the temple is gone, how can we go and do these things? How can we do the sacrifices? How can we do the worships, right? So we have to have that, right? If some of us die here or there, we as a nation still have this conduit to the Most High. So that was their primary focus, that we cannot allow them to come and destroy or to desecrate the temple itself. Yawakanun.
I said because like the heathen, they protect, Washington D.C. They protect, the Vatican, and they protect their things, and even their mosque or whatever. They protect that,
right?
But they go over the rock and so on and so forth. They protect that, and that's where their source is,
right? So here's an interesting thing. Go back to 2 Maccabees, the 5th chapter. The best way that we could defend and protect the temple, what's the best way that we can defend and protect the temple? The best way that we can defend and protect the temple is to just don't sin. Right? Plain and simple. Because the Most High cares most about us, not on the city itself, not on the temple itself, not on the land, not on. We are the apple of the Most High's eye. He gave us all of those things because he loved the people, not the building over the people, right? Not this thing over the people, but the people themselves. But when the people, we as a people, fall away from the Most High, then what happens? Then the land gets taken over by the Gentiles. Then the temple gets taken over by the Gentiles or destroyed, right? Then we get taken over by the Gentiles because of the sin. So I'm gonna read this in 2 Maccabees 5:15. It says, yet was he not content with this, but presumed to go out into the most holy temple of all the world. Menelaus, that traitor to the laws and to his own country, being his guide, right? So here it is. Antiochus is now going to step foot into the temple, right? Where we had a traitor by the name of Menelaus who was leading him into the temple, right? It says, verse 16, and taking the holy vessels with polluted hands and with profane hands, pulling down the things that were dedicated by other kings to the augmentation and glory and honor of the place, he gave them away, right? So this man Menelaus with Antiochus there with profane hands, because he didn't have any purpose being in there, right, is now taking the dedicated and holy vessels and giving them to a heathen, right? Now, how did this happen? It says in verse 17, and so hardy was Antiochus in mind that he considered not that the Lord was angry for a while for the sins of them that dwelt in the city, and therefore his eye was not upon the place, right? So he didn't consider that the Most High was angry with his people. You had other heathens who understood that if the Most High and the people were in tune with each other, nobody can come against them, right? No one can go against and destroy and defeat Israel if we are in tune with the Most High. But he didn't realize that. He was proud and haughty in mind and thought that he could just do that because of who he is, right? But again, it says, and so hardy was Antiochus in mind that he considered not that the Lord was angry for a while for the sins of them that dwelt in the city, and therefore his eye was not upon the place. For had they not been formerly wrapped in many sins, this man, as soon as he had come, had forthwith been scourged and put back from his presumption, as Heliodorus was when Seleucus the king sent to view the treasury, right? So the same thing that happened to another man, Heliodorus, when he was supposed to go into the temple, the Most High prevented him from setting foot. The same thing would have happened to Antiochus. But because Israel was so wrapped up in the sins, he didn't care about the temple. He didn't care about it. They can go in there and touch all of those vessels that have been dedicated to me and made holy, but the people ain't holy right now. So what do I care? It says, nevertheless, God did not choose the people for the place sake, but the place for the people's sake, right? He didn't say, oh, this is my favorite place in the planet Earth. Let me go find something to put in it. No, he said, this is my favorite people of all my creation. Let me go find them things that I feel is benefiting or fit for them, right? It says, verse 20, and therefore the place itself that was partaker with them of the adversity that happened to the nation did afterward communicate in the benefits sent from the Lord, and it was forsaken in the wrath of the Almighty. So again, the great Lord being reconciled, it was set up with all glory. So the Most High can go either way with it. He can allow it to be a benefit to them, or it could be a detriment to them, right? Because of the state of how we are as a people, right? So when you look at Israel, all you got to go and look at is, are they keeping the law, statutes, and commandments? That's it, right? Because if you see a people who appears that they're on the rise, appears that they have wealth and this and that, but they not keeping the Most High's laws, it will never last. It is a short reign. It is a short time, right? Or it's going to be temporary because it's going to be all done in wickedness. That's why I use a lot of people who are in the public eye. They're only there for a time, right? They're only there for a time. They love that. They always have that saying: industry or society loves to build you up to do what?
Knock you down.
Knock you right back down, right? And then there's someone else. They'll build them up, and they're up there, and then they knock down. They come right back down, right? But when you're righteous with the Most High, like it says in the kingdom when Christ comes and rules, there's no sin gonna happen. So there's no sin. Guess what? There's no reason to come down. That's why the kingdom is going to be for what? Ever and ever and ever. No sin amongst the children of Israel.
Come on. Just like a prime example, Bill Cosby, he goes them all up and knocks them down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the things he was doing at his young age, he thought that, he can get away with it.
Right.
I mean, I love the brother and everything because he is a brother. You know what I mean? And then on spite of that, he had his eyes had to come. He got blind in his eyes,
Mm-hmm.
So, that was something that he wasn't doing right.
No, see, the thing about it was, in order to climb to that pinnacle, you have to sell yourself, or you have to go and do things that is not in congruence with the Most High, that is not in league with the Lord, right? So all those things that happened, he wasn't the only one. There was a lot of other folks who did the same things with him. Right. But it was never a big deal because he was in tune with them, right? Okay. But then when he started to try to veer away and say, hey, I'm about to go start trying to repair and rebuild my people. He went on a tour, a world tour, talking about and he started to chastise them about things and how they're living. Then it was rumored that he was going to go and buy a TV network, right? So when you have that framework, they got a little afraid and said, oh, no, we can't let nobody like this who's this powerful, who has this much influence and has this much money, continue on. It's time to knock him back down right now. Those past so-called sins, according to the world that everybody was doing, now we bringing them to the forefront. You start talking about, what? This was 30-some years ago, 20-some years ago. Why wasn't it dealt with then? Because it was all right. He was a good old boy then. Now he's not. Now he's separating himself. So we got to spank him a bit.
You think by him, his what they found on him guilty and all like that, you think his attorney gonna be able to return and get a better sentence for him?
I don't know. I don't know. I know he was found guilty. I think he has to come back at a certain point for sentencing, but I don't know if that's still not going to keep him out of jail. I mean, he can appeal while he's in jail, right? After he gets his sentencing and they give him this date when he has support, then, because usually when you come here for your sentencing, it's immediate, right? So when you go and they say you're going to have 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, they take you in custody right then and there, right? And then you can go and appeal, but you're going to have to appeal after the fact. Like you'll be in custody then, and you can do your appeal. Right.
And also, when we think about jail for these people, don't think about it as us that when we get locked down in Rikers Island.
Right.
To them, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, he's not going to San Quentin and being in population.
The jail that he's going to, he's pretty much just going to a college campus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he has everything that he needs there, So it's not like he's in torment.
Yeah.
He just don't have the freedom.
He don't have the freedom to move like how he want to move.
Oh, okay.
He ain't going to the restaurants or getting on his plane and going ahead. Nah, you're going to be right there.
Okay.
But you'll have accommodations.
When you have money, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Because I know this guy, he used to be locked up in jail, but he had money. At 9 times, they take him to his wife, and his wife got pregnant. But while he's supposed to be in jail,
yeah, quote unquote conjugal visits.
Okay.
Yep.
So he had money, so it's a difference. So it's a big difference.
It's always been a big difference. Those who have money can usurp the system at times. Right?
They don't have you free.
Yeah. So let's go back to 2 Maccabees 15. And we're now at verse 19. It says, also, they that were within the city took not the least care, being troubled for the conflict abroad. It says, and now, when as all looked what should be the trial, and the enemies were already come near, and the army was set in array, and the beasts conveniently placed, and the horsemen set in wings. Man, so now they're coming to the battle. It's like you see on TV, everybody's in battle position. Got the horsemen over there, the elephants and things is right here, the footman is here. Everybody is dead in the valley somewhere, and they're ready to charge and get into the conflict, right? It says, verse 21, Maccabees, seeing the coming of the multitude and the diverse preparations of armor and the fierceness of the beast, stretched out his hand toward heaven and called upon the Lord that worketh wonders, knowing that the victory cometh not by arms, but even as it seemeth good to him, he giveth it to such as are worthy, right? So as they're all now in battle array, you're looking at the diversities of all the stuff that they got, the weapons that they have, the animals that they have, all this. And now it looks like a strait that they've entered into. So what? I'm gonna sit up and pray to the Most High, and the Most High is about to make, he's about to handle, he's about to make our odds way in favor for us, for those who are worthy, right? And in this case, Judas and the men, they knew that they were worthy to defend for a righteous cause, right? Give me 1 second here. So you can link this with Zechariah 4 and 6. This is verse 21. So Zechariah 4 and 6 says, then he answered and spake unto me, saying, this is the word of the Lord unto Zerubbabel, saying, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts, right? So it doesn't come through anything carnal. It always happens, or things always transpire because of the spirit or will of the Most High. That's what he's saying. So if it's the Lord's will that Maccabees is going to win, or it's the Lord's will that you're going to get that, whatever it is that you desire, it's going to happen. Not because of things tangible that you may have acquired or that they have. Nah, it's the will of the Most High. Yep.
And at this point, when you're in the midst of that, in the midst of the situation, you come to realize that you don't belong to yourself anymore. However it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's no fear. You can't, fear that death or anything. Whenever you're in that position, you're in that zone. Whatever happened. You just call on the Most High, and may as well be done.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much the fear of the unknown. What I say when I mention the fear of the unknown, death.
You don't know how it's gonna work out. Or you put all your confidence because you're doing right in the Most High, but you still don't know how it's gonna work out.
No, I'm not speaking about that. I'm just speaking about death in itself.
Oh, okay.
Right? Death in itself. The fear of the unknown, because you don't know. You don't know what it feels like to die. Right? You don't know what's going to happen right after you die, like physically. Like we read the scriptures, we know the spirit goes back to the Most High, but all of that transpires, it's unknown to you.
Nobody has come back.
Yeah, no one came back and be like, yo, let me tell you what happened after I died, right? I was in this portal, and nobody knows. Like no one says, and the pain, it was like for a second, it was nothing. And then Nobody knows that. So you have the fear of it itself is what puts it on a higher level than what it actually may be. So we fear that so much. So now, like Paquad is saying, now as we're about to go out to this war, it's like all the things that Judas had now spoken to the men, all those stories that he had already told them. Then he gives them this vision. It's like, man, I'm going out there. I'm going out there. If I die, I die, right? Because your thought is not on that no more. Right. But when your thought is on that, you see how sometimes men in the military, when they go out to war, they're fearful because they don't want to die. They don't want to give up what they got at home. They don't want to give up their cars, their families, or the opportunity of what they may gain. So they're fearful. So when they fighting, first thing move, I'm shooting. First thing move, I'm shooting. It could be somebody in there. It could be a woman walking across the street and pow! Oh, I'm trying to get back home. But the adversaries, they're fighting for a different reason, right? They're fighting for a different objective. They're not fearful. That's why Ishmael is willing to go out there and do what he or she does. They're willing to sacrifice themselves because in their minds, they're going to gain so much in the afterlife, right? That's how they have now inspired themselves to conquer death itself. Like, don't fear death. You're going to gain 100 women in the afterlife. 100? Oh man, I only got one right now. If I'm going to get 100 for doing that, I'm going to go blow myself up, right?
That's how the Indians think when they want to fight war.
Right.
That's how they think.
Yeah, that's how Ishmael or Muslims, that's some of, not all of them, that's what some of their mentality is. So they're willing to go do that. So they're fighting for a different cause. They're not putting their trust in weapons. They're putting their trust in their faith, right? They're putting their trust in their belief that, hey, I'm fighting to defend the belief that we adhere to. Whereas right here, when we read the scriptures, we put our trust in the Most High. Our trust is not in the law. Our trust is in the Most High who gives us the law, right? So that's where it is. So we're not praying to the law. Judas wasn't sitting up his hand, let me pray to the law and see if the law is going to defend me. No, he's praying to the Most High because the Most High is the living power that can alter and change courses. The Most High, when they prayed, the sun stayed up there for 2 days, right? During the time of the other brother, when he was sick, the Most High extended his life, right, so that he wouldn't die at the point in time that he was supposed to die. Right. By prayer to the Lord and sincerity, the Most High can alter things for you, right? So this is where we fall in. This is how we should fall in. All 100% trust in the Most High if we do his will. Do the right thing. Your focus has to be geared to doing his will. Then these things could be in your favor. Is it going to be 100% perfect? No. But you want to have a lot more of your faith geared to the Most High than you being a 50-50 or a 60-40 or anything else in the other direction. You always want to be trending upward. You know how that doc thing, the stock market thing shows you don't want to be like, all right, I'm going down here, but I'm gonna pray to the Most High and I'm going down. I ain't doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You're trending downward because you're sinning. Now, as you repent and you work towards in sincerity doing the right thing, then you're trending upward. Even when you still falling short here and there, you're trending upward because your spirit is in the right direction, right? When your spirit is in the right direction, then you at a loss. Somebody hand up.
It's like that's why you see in the scriptures when you go into war and you're the head, your strategies, everything, that's what you live for. That's what you do. That's your thing.
Yeah.
Right? And then you see the brother, he was for the people and he was for the Lord, the Most High, and that was his thing.
All right.
To the point where the adversary said, come on, man, just go get married and, just lay back and have a wife and then just have some affair in this life. Because you got to find something to attach him to so that you can defer him from what he really, that's his thing.
Right.
So, get him to get married and get him attached to something in this life so you can, distract him from what he does best.
Mm-hmm. So now let's continue on. Back in verse 22 now. It says, therefore, in his prayer, he said after this manner, O Lord, thou didst send thine angel in the time of Ezekias or Hezekiah, king of Judea, and did slay in the host of Sennacherib 104 and 5,000. So this is what Yahweh Kanan alluded to when he read in 2 Kings 19:35. Same thing in 2 Chronicles 32:21. When you read on down from there, right? He's alluding to, hey, I see all these diversities of people and animals and weapons and all that. Don't matter. Let me pray to Most High. Remember, Most High, when you sent down that one angel to wipe out 100 and some odd score people, right? This is what the prayer is, that the Lord would also defend them in the time of this. Verse 23. Wherefore now also, O Lord of heaven, send a good angel before us for a fear and a dread unto them. So the same thing you did during Hezekiah's time, can you do the same thing for us right now? Verse 24. And through thy might and through the might of thine arm, let those be stricken with terror that come against thy holy people to blaspheme. And he ended thus, right? So a quick prayer to the Most High as he was about to engage in the war, right? Send us an angel so that we can defend ourselves, and send that spirit of fear amongst them where they are not willing to want to fight, right? Verse 25. Say again. Blaspheme. Blaspheme is like wicked lies. Yeah. When you blaspheme against something that's truthful, something that's right? When you go against things that's obvious and you put a smear campaign and propaganda and you just alter the truth, it's like you're blaspheming. Sometimes you can be, ignorant in doing it, like Paul was when he came against the truth or that was righteous. He did it because he didn't know any better. But then you have others who do know better that do it. And the Most High said that there's no forgiveness for them. Right? That's what Christ said when you read the gospel. Verse 25. Then Nicanor and they that were with him came forward with trumpets and songs. So imagine you out to the war, and they got trumpeters and singers. They're singing, encouraging them for the victory. Right? We did this sometimes as well. Right? When we were at the war, at times the priests came with the ark, and we had the singers and the trumpets playing as well. So this wasn't uncommon to do in the midst of war. Now, verse 26. But Judas and his company encountered the enemies with invocation and prayer. Right? So as they're playing and singing, Israel is praying to the Most High. Right? It says in verse 27. So that fighting with their hands and praying unto God with their hearts, they slew no less than 35,000 men. For through the appearance of God, they were greatly cheered. Right? So here it is. As they're going into encounter the battle, some is out there fighting, but then you have others that's also continuing to pray to the Most High. And then what happens? The Most High sends down an angel, right, to help them in this fight. Same thing he did aforetime already with Judas, and the same time that he prayed for what happened during the time of Hezekiah. Verse 28. Now when the battle was done, returning again with joy, they knew that Nicanor lay dead in his harness. Then they made a great shout and a noise, praising the Almighty in their own language, right? So once they realized that after the 35,000 was destroyed, they espied and saw Nicanor dead in his harness. And usually what happens when your leader or the captain of the host gets taken out, his army or his camp becomes fearful, and they run. It's saying, you read that when you read in First Maccabees, when Judas died, the camp was in disarray until his brother Jonathan stepped up and took the captain of the host, right? And then Jonathan died, and then the camp was in disarray, and then his brother Simon came up and took the captain of the host. So there's always that looking towards who your leader is. If your leader gets taken out, and it's like, oh man, if they was able to take out the captain of the host, take out our leader, then what are we going to do? Right? I take orders from somebody. I'm not the leader myself. We have no one to take orders for. So then you run. So it says in verse 29 again, then they made a great shout and a noise, praising the Almighty in their own language, which is Lashuan Kodash, or the Holy Tongue Hebrew. Verse 30, and Judas, who was ever the chief defender of the citizens, both in body and mind, and who continued his love toward his countrymen all his life, commanded to strike off Nicanor's head and his hand with his shoulder and bring them to Jerusalem. So him being the captain of the chief defender of the people, he knew what had now just transpired, and he went and commanded his men to go cut off Nicanor's head and to cut off his hand attached to his shoulder. So they cut it all off from here on off, because what did Nicanor do? Right. He raised his hand and blasphemed with that hand of what he was going to do. So they said people remembered him doing or pointing and doing such and such. So make an example, cut his head off, and that same hand that he used to make gestures to what he was going to do to the temple, right? Huh?
Remember Goliath? He cut his head off.
Exactly. Right? Cut. I mean, we're in the trenches of war. You know, somebody cutting somebody's head off and having their dead head and their hand on a basket or whatever. You're like, oh man, that's just so vile. But this is war. This is like when you going through the midst of a life and death battle, everything is on, like, you don't look at it in the same context. So he realized with his mouth, he said certain things, and with his hand, he made certain gestures. So we're going to use this as a example of what the Most High and his people, right? Verse 34. So when he was there and had called them of his nation together and set the priests before the altar, he sent for them that were of the tower and showed them vile Nicanor's head and the hand of that blasphemer, which with proud brags he had stretched out against the holy temple of the Almighty. And when he had cut out the tongue of that ungodly Nicanor, he commanded that they should give it by pieces unto the fowls and hang up the reward of his madness before the temple, right? So he took the head, and those that were still of the heathen that remained bound up in the tower, he went and showed it to them, right? So because they thought that he was going to be their defender. He was going to come back and help them. Here's his head now. And they're watching him cut his tongue out, and they cutting it up in pieces and feeding it to the birds, right? That tongue, remember you read in James, the tongue is a mighty thing, right? It can destroy, it can bring down nations and cities, right? So that was now being fed to the fowls in the midst of the people. Whereas Israel is cheering, they're falling in fear. Oh, have mercy on me now, right? That's what they're going to now do, because they realize that they have no defender coming for them. Verse 34, so every man prayed toward the heaven, the glorious Lord, saying, blessed be he that have kept his own place undefiled, right? He hanged also Nicanor's head upon the tower, an evident and manifest sign unto all of the help of the Lord. So it was a sign unto everybody. Right? What was that guy's name? The real life Dracula dude. Is it no. I forget. What was his name? Which Khan was here? That's the guy who came against him. He would put their heads upon the tops of these things as they came towards his castle or towards his location, his habitation. So that as you come in there, you seeing all these heads, you like, yo, this ain't a guy that you want to mess with. Look at all these. Damn, I remember he was a great man at once. That was a great fighter. Man, he got his head up there too. You don't want to mess with this guy, right? So Nicanor's head is being hung up in front of the temple, in front of all the people that sees this, that says, this is what happens. Never fear. Never worry. Never doubt. Look at all that pomp and braggadocious stuff that he said and did just not aforetime. Now look at him, right? So that's why Nicanor, that's why Judas did it. Not to just do it for the fear of those who are in alliance with Nicanor, but to always encourage Israel that says, look, see him? Remember what he did? Now look at him. And we can use that as a moment in time as part of history that says, yeah, I was there. I remember. So when the next thing comes, you remember back to what had happened the aforetime.
Just as you say that, like in Romans 15:4, it says, things written aforetime. It says, stay for with whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. So the goal is, why do we even have to read about this? It's because there's future events that's gonna happen that we're gonna encounter that we don't have a clue, you know, how it's gonna turn out.
Right.
Right. But through looking back and gain insight to what happened in the past, right? While we cannot predict the future, but we can gain insight on what happened in the past and the present, so we can get courage to move forward to face the event that we're gonna face. So otherwise, you know, there wouldn't be any point for us reading this today. It's because there's unknown things that's gonna happen that we're gonna need to seek back and get an insight to move forward to face those events that's gonna happen.
Done. So now reading verse 36, it says, and they ordain all with a common decree in no case to let that day pass without solemnity, but to celebrate the 13th day of the 12th month, which in the Syrian tongue is called Adar, the day before Mordecai's day. Right? What is Mordecai's day? When they're talking about Mordecai's day, what is that? What's another name for that solemn assembly or that solemn day? Purim, right? So Mordecai's day is attuned with Purim, the 2 days of Purim, right? So now right before Purim is kept the day of Judas, right?
I just want to read another prior person. This is 2 Kings 18:35. It says, who are they among all the gods of the countries that have delivered their country out of mine hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of mine hand? This is Sennacherib. He's one of the proud kings that lost all his army.
All right, so let's go back to 2 Maccabees 15, and we have verse 37 now. It says, thus went it with Nicanor, and from that time forth, the Hebrews had the city in their power, and here will I make an end. Right, so the author of the Maccabees now has concluded the story here for this second book, right? It says, verse 38, and if I had done or have done well, and it is fitting the story, it is that which I desired. But if slenderly and meanly, it is that which I could attain unto, right? So he's now just ending it off with, I've done my best to try to comprise the information that has been done or the history pertaining to the Maccabees, right? It says, for it is hurtful to drink wine or water alone, and as wine mingled with water is pleasant and delighteth the taste, even so speech finely framed delighteth the ears of them that read the story, and here shall be an end, right? So finally a well-written story is so pleasing to the mind, right? That was his intention. usually when you have writers or people who are artists, you know, they're very sensitive about their art when they give it out. They want it to be well received. So he's, you know, ending this off where this was an intention to try to, you know, use careful words, use the right storyline in order so that it can be well pleasant to the person who's reading it. Which for me, you know, outside of the Gospels, you know, Maccabees is my like my favorite storyline.
Okay.
You know,
It's a whole lot.
it's very, to me, like I envision the cinematography behind it. Like if you were like when you read the stories and you just envision the actual events transpiring, it's like very like picturesque. Like I can just see it, right? And imagine like there's so much going on with the Maccabees. You got the Greek Empire coming in. You have the Roman Empire. On the Greek Empire now starting, and the Roman Empire starting to build. And then you have the other nations there as well. But now here's Israel in the midst. And you got the rulers now all jockeying for power. Then you have the righteous men, starting with Mattathias, who now are starting to defend Israel. Then you have the men, the sons, stepping up and taking the captain of the chief position to continually go into fight. And we always outnumbered, but the Most High always finds a way for us to fend off this onslaught from the nations. Sometimes we fall a little bit. Judas died, Jonathan died. We fall, but we are able to get back up at certain points of time. But then you have, like we just read, where the Most High will send angels down to come help them fight, right? You have so much stuff going on in just these two books, or just in the storyline, that it will be great, something to put in the movie, especially if the characters are depicted the right way. You know, when you see you know, Israel on the forefront as the actual stars in the cast as it's supposed to be,
right,
then you're like, oh man, this is what's up, right? But kind of influence the right person, right? All right, so that's ends Second Maccabees, the last chapter in the second book of the Maccabees. We're going to take a pause here. It's about 12:30. We'll come back, most high's will, about 1 o'clock, and we'll go back to the beginning of the book of the Apocrypha and start off with First Esdras, the first chapter. We're going to do First Esdras, first chapter, when we return back in about a half an hour. All right, so, all right, stretch your legs, get something to eat lawfully, no cooking, and we'll return to pick up on the second half of the Sabbath service. All right, shalom.